Chernobyl. The very name hums with the weight of a disaster, a silent alarm still ringing through the years. It all started with what should have been a routine science experiment back on April 26, 1986, but it blew up, literally, turning the sky a scary red and poisoning the earth we walk on. Now, almost 40 years later, scientists keep going back, their cameras clicking, documenting what's left. But inside this forbidden zone, they've stumbled upon things that just don't add up, discoveries so strange they've made even the most experienced experts stop and think. Take the Red Forest, a creepy reminder of that awful night. Just a few kilometers from the power plant, it became nature's radioactive graveyard. The trees, once full of life, were suffocated by the intense radiation, their needles turning this eerie reddish-brown, like death had painted them. Cleanup crews saw this, and later scientists did too, a stark reminder of how much we can hurt the world around us. They said it was too dangerous for anyone, people or animals, so the Red Forest became part of this off-limits area. But scientists are curious, so they went back, wanting to see what happens long-term after so much radiation. What they found was surprising. Decades later, the radiation is still crazy high, with some spots giving off a whole year's worth of normal human exposure in just a few hours. There are places so packed with cesium-137 and strontium-90 that even the researchers avoid them, making some think this land is now a permanent radioactive grave. But even with all this, life hangs on in the Red Forest. Some plants and animals seem to be finding ways to live in these extreme conditions, though maybe there's a cost we don't fully grasp yet. So, these motion-activated cameras the researchers put up in the Red Forest were supposed to catch animals coming back to this super radioactive place. But the videos they got painted a really strange and unsettling picture. The most contaminated spots were just empty. While some animals would wander near the edges, the really radioactive center had hardly any movement at all. This confused the scientists, especially since animals had started showing up again in other parts of Chernobyl's exclusion zone. It looked like the animals could just sense the danger and were instinctively staying away from the worst areas. Even the ones that got close acted weird, avoiding the cameras and not walking in straight lines, like the radiation itself was a warning sign. This showed something disturbing. The danger wasn't just in the air, it was soaked into the ground and the plants. It made you wonder, how was this messed up place changing the animals brave enough to go in? The fact that almost nothing lived in the heart of the Red Forest hinted at a darker change, something the scientists were only starting to understand. In the years since people left the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, nature has gone on this unbelievable, but also creepy, journey. While the buildings and stuff people left behind were falling apart, wildlife slowly came back, but they weren't the same. Some animals have actually adapted to the radiation that's still there in ways that both fascinate and worry scientists. Take the eastern tree frog, usually a bright green. In the exclusion zone, they've gotten much darker skin. Scientists think this is because they have more melanin, which helps protect them from the radiation. What's really interesting is that the frogs in the areas that had the highest radiation back when the accident happened are the darkest, like it's something they evolved to do. But it's not just frogs. The barn swallows there have more physical problems, like weird beaks, white feathers where they shouldn't be, bent tail feathers, and messed up air sacs. These birds also didn't have as many babies, had smaller brains, messed up sperm, and eye problems. When they looked closer, they found lots of birds around Chernobyl with white patches and tumors, and it seemed to depend on how much radiation was in the area. Even the mammals haven't escaped this. Wild dogs near the exclusion zone have shown strange genetic changes that could be from the radiation. Studies have shown that the number of animals in different groups has gone down, especially in the most radioactive places. While some scientists see these changes as nature being tough and bouncing back, others are worried about what this means for the animals in the future. While studies on Chernobyl accident survivors, particularly children, showed no significant increase in DNA mutations, the same couldn't be said for the animals within the exclusion zone, where elevated mutation rates have been documented across various species. This sparked ongoing debates among scientists about the full impact of radiation on living organisms. But even these mutations weren't the most astonishing discovery. As scientists observed birds hatching with deformed beaks and frogs undergoing skin color changes for survival, a profound question emerged. Was nature merely adapting, or was something else entirely thriving? Deep within the radioactive ruins of Chernobyl's core, researchers stumbled upon a life form that wasn't just surviving radiation, it was consuming it. This discovery fundamentally altered their understanding of life's limits on Earth. In the shadowed remains of Reactor 4, where dangers still lingered in the air, scientists found an improbable survivor, fungi. But these weren't ordinary fungi. They were dark, resilient, and exhibited a previously unheard-of behavior, feeding on radiation. In the early 2000s, while exploring the highly contaminated reactor building, researchers noticed black mold growing steadily on the walls, even in areas with extremely high radiation levels. These fungi weren't just surviving, they appeared to be flourishing. The crucial question was how they were thriving in a place where most life withered. Scientists discovered that these fungal species contained high levels of melanin, the same pigment that protects human skin from ultraviolet radiation. But in these fungi, melanin wasn't just a shield, it was actively involved in their survival. A 2007 study suggested that melanin-rich fungi like Cladosporium sphaerospermum and Wengiella dermatitidis might be using a process called radiosynthesis. Just as plants use chlorophyll for photosynthesis, these fungi in Chernobyl's ruins might be using melanin to convert gamma radiation into chemical energy. Essentially, radiation wasn't a threat, it was a food source. This discovery stunned the scientific community. These fungi were turning one of Earth's most lethal forces into life-sustaining fuel. Inside the Chernobyl reactor, where human access is limited to brief visits in protective suits, these dark organisms quietly multiplied, undisturbed and eerily at home. In 2016, NASA, intrigued by their potential, even sent samples of Cladosporium sphaerospermum to the International Space Station to see if these radiation-loving organisms could shield astronauts from cosmic radiation during deep space missions. The results were promising, suggesting that this humble mold from a nuclear wasteland might one day help protect humans on Mars. Beyond its practical applications, this discovery raised profound and unsettling questions. If life can not only endure radiation but feed on it, what does that imply about evolution in extreme environments like Chernobyl? What kinds of organisms might exist in the radioactive landscapes of other planets or in the aftermath of our own disasters? In Chernobyl, nature has been forced to adapt in the most unexpected ways. The fungi there don't just resist the fallout, they embrace it, becoming darker, stronger, and more bizarre with each generation. Yet, their presence isn't comforting, it's haunting. They thrive in places we deem uninhabitable, places marked by human tragedy, where the land still seems to remember the panic of 1986. It's almost a dark poetry that in the very spaces humans can't long endure, these organisms bloom. But this isn't the only enigma lurking in Chernobyl's irradiated shadows. While fungi found a way to consume radiation, other life forms began to change in ways that astonished scientists. Deep below the steel shell covering the ruins of Reactor 4, something unexpected started happening. Back in 2021, scientists noticed that the amount of neutron emissions was going up inside a sealed-off room, room 3052. This was a worrying sign that the reactor, which everyone thought was just sitting there, might still have small nuclear reactions going on within the melted fuel that caused all the trouble in 1986. Think of it like embers deep in the ashes, not a big fire, but still hot and able to flare up again. This activity is probably coming from the corium, this lava-like mix of melted uranium, sand, concrete, and steel that hardened into big, dark lumps in several rooms, including room 3052, which is almost impossible to get to. It's deep inside the wreckage, surrounded by unstable stuff, collapsed walls, and really strong radiation, so no one's been in that room since the disaster. But now, sensors outside those thick concrete walls are showing that these fission reactions might still be flickering to life. Scientists are saying that the neutron levels aren't an immediate danger right now, but the fact that they're steadily increasing is making them nervous. Nuclear reactions need fuel, neutrons, and something to slow the neutrons down. It looks like the melted fuel in this hidden room might be finding those conditions again. Even weak reactions could get stronger under the right circumstances, and that could release more radioactive stuff, damage what's left of the structure, or make it harder to take the plant apart later. The problem is getting into the room. It's sealed off, really contaminated, and in a part of the reactor that's incredibly hard to reach. Even really advanced robots would have trouble there. The radiation would probably fry their circuits. They've talked about sending in special drones or robotic arms to inject materials like boron that absorb neutrons, but just getting those tools inside is a huge challenge. Making it even more complicated is that the data from the sensors is limited. While they show the neutron levels are rising, scientists can't actually see the fuel or fully understand how it's behaving after almost 40 years. Ironically, some experts think that the new safe confinement, the big steel structure built over the reactor in 2016, might have accidentally made this renewed activity worse. Before the dome, the reactor was open to the weather. Rain, wind, and changes in temperature might have kept the corium from reacting. Now that it's sealed off, the air is drier and the temperature is more stable, which could be helping the reactions along. So, while the dome has done a good job of stopping radioactive dust and debris from getting out, it seems to have created a new problem. Scientists are now watching the neutron levels every day, looking for any signs that they're speeding up or leveling off. Time might still be on our side, but these increasing emissions are a serious warning. And there are other strange things hinting that Chernobyl might still be holding secrets. When night falls over what's left of Reactor 4, a weird, glowing blue light often appears in the sky above the exclusion zone. This otherworldly light, with its blue-violet color, has confused scientists and fascinated people for years. It flickers above the ruined core. Sometimes you can even see it through thick clouds of radioactive dust. People have reported seeing these eerie glows in the sky and the area around it since right after the explosion, sometimes on and off for days. This blue light was like nothing anyone had ever seen, and it didn't seem to be from anything man-made or any natural event. For years, no one knew what caused it. Some people thought it was something supernatural, while others thought it had to do with the intense radiation. Eventually, scientists figured out it was ionized air glows, something that happens when high levels of radiation interact with the air. This really energetic radiation makes the air molecules lose electrons, and when they get back together, they give off light, often blue or violet. It's similar to Cherenkov radiation you see in other high-energy places like space or nuclear reactors. Even today, you can sometimes see this blue glow above Reactor 4, though not as often as right after the disaster. Some scientists think it's still happening because there are still lower-level radiation leaks from the reactor causing ionization. Even though there's a scientific explanation, the continued glow feels almost like something supernatural, as if the reactor itself is still showing its haunting presence, a constant reminder of the event that changed the world and whose effects we're still living with. But what other secrets are hidden in Chernobyl's dark past? Just when it seemed like the story of Chernobyl had settled into this eerie quiet, something unexpected broke the silence, hinting at a controversial future for this haunted place that hardly anyone could have imagined. In early 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, something unsettling happened inside the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Satellite data and sensors on the ground showed a rapid increase in radiation levels. These weren't just small changes, but big spikes that were picked up by different monitoring systems. In a place that was thought to be slowly getting better, this sudden rise set off alarm bells in the global scientific community. The Ukrainian agency in charge of the exclusion zone initially said these spikes were because of the heavy Russian military vehicles moving through Chernobyl's contaminated topsoil, possibly stirring up radioactive particles that had settled over decades. But as more information came in, other ideas started to surface. Some researchers noticed things in the readings that couldn't easily be explained by just the soil being disturbed, suggesting maybe there was electronic interference or someone was messing with the monitoring systems. On top of that, Russian troops took over the Chernobyl site and reportedly went around the area without the right safety gear, and some of them later showed signs of acute radiation syndrome. While there's no definite proof that Russian forces sabotaged anything, the incident showed a worrying weakness in Chernobyl's radiation monitoring system, which might have been made worse by years of not enough funding, limited oversight, and political instability. The realization that such a dangerous place could be manipulated either physically or online shook people's confidence in the safety rules there, especially since these sensors are supposed to be early warning systems. Yet, even as the world was dealing with this scare, a surprising and controversial idea came up. Despite its dark history, Ukraine announced that it was thinking about turning Chernobyl into a site for new nuclear experiments, involving putting in small modular reactors. These modern reactors are supposed to be safer, more efficient, and more flexible than the old power plants. Ukraine, like many countries, sees these reactors as part of a cleaner energy future. For some people in the country's science and political circles, Chernobyl isn't just a warning story, but a chance for innovation. By making the exclusion zone a center for cutting-edge nuclear research, Ukraine hopes to change its story, turning it from a symbol of disaster into one of resilience, progress, and hope. However, this idea has been met with doubt. Many scientists warn that any new nuclear development in the area needs to be extremely careful because of the structural problems of the existing facilities, the risk of leftover radiation hotspots, and the political instability of a country at war. Nevertheless, they are looking at pilot projects and doing studies to see if it's possible. If it works out, Ukraine could not only rewrite Chernobyl's future but maybe even change the future of nuclear energy itself. What do you think? Should Chernobyl be left as it is, or could it be transformed for the better? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.